This is News Now. I am Perpetua Fasomipita. The House of Representatives has approved the extension of the lifespan of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board's Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination result from 1 year to 4 years. Interior, Reformatory Services, Defense, Army, Air Force, Navy and Police Affairs to investigate the causes, dimensions and effects of the recent KUJE Custodial Center attack. The Joint Committee is to make its report available within 4 weeks for further legislative action. The House also urged the federal government to implement the recommendations of the Special Summit on National Security organized by the leadership of the House in 2021, which the lawmakers said had a broad national stakeholders' participation. At the plenary on Thursday, the House unanimously adopted the motion moved by a member, Shaban Sharada, titled Need to Investigate the Terrorist Attack on Nigerian Correctional Medium Security Custodial Center, KUJE. The federal government is considering a ban on the use of motorcycles and mining activities sequel to the terrorist attacks on the KUJE Correctional Facility on July 5, as well as others recorded nationwide. Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola, Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and Minister of Police Affairs, Megeri Dinyadi, disclosed this to State House correspondents on Thursday after a National Security Council meeting chaired by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. The cabinet members were silent on whether the ban would be nationwide or restricted to the affected regions of the country. According to them, the council is considering both measures to cut off funding and logistics which the terrorists have leveraged to execute their nefarious activities. Malami revealed that the use of motorcycles allowed the terrorists to move around funds sourced from mining and channeled to arms purchase. The federal government says at least 3,657 civil servants had been dragged before the Independent and Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, ICPC, for their failure to get verified on the Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System, IPPIS. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi-Eson, announced this when she appeared at the weekly ministerial media briefing organized by the Presidential Communications Team at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Yemi-Eson, who was accompanied by other senior officials of the Federal Civil Service, also said 61,446 civil servants in the core ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, have been verified. The head of service said another 1,618 applicants were found to have used illegal or fake letters, while 874 officers have been suspended from the IPPIS platform. She added that about 180 million naira was being saved monthly and about 2 billion naira annually from the implementation of the IPPIS. Yemi-Eson assured the nation that the payment platform could accommodate the salaries of university lecturers who have rejected it in preference for University Transparency and Accountability Solution UTAS, which is yet to pass relevant integrity tests. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we have more stories for you. Stay with us. And now the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has advised Nigerians to file lawsuits against candidates who they knew submitted false certificates for their eligibility to contest the 2023 elections. The Commission also said it was also involved in 334 pre-election court cases that arose from the conduct of congresses and primaries by political parties for the 2023 general election. The chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, stated this at the swearing-in of Dr. Hali Longpet as resident electoral commissioner on Thursday in Abuja. Yakubu said Longpet, who is from Plateau State, has been deployed as rec for Kogi State. The INEC chairman said the commission would publish the personal particulars of candidates nominated by their political parties for governorship and state assembly elections in all the constituencies nationwide as required by the law. The federal government is urging the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) to shelve its nationwide planned protest in solidarity with the trade unions in the Nigeria public universities and others. Minister of Labour and Employment Senator Chris Ngige made the appeal at a meeting with the leadership of NLC in his office on Thursday in Abuja. Ngige said this in a statement signed by Mr. Olajide Oshundun, Head, Press and Public Relations in the ministry. The decision to embark on the National Day of Protest was taken at the NLC National Executive Council, that's the NEC, meeting in June. The national protest is scheduled for July 26 and 27 to ensure students go back to school and also in support of the unions in Nigeria's public universities fighting for quality education. A federal high court in Abuja Thursday granted leave to a civil society group to apply for an order of mandamus compelling the Inspector General of Police to prosecute the presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, over alleged perjury. Justice Inyang Ekwe ruled on an ex parte application by counsel to the incorporated trustees of Center for Reform and Public Advocacy, Ugo Nwofo. The ex parte application was filed by the group following the alleged refusal of the IGP Usman Alkali Baba to effect Tinubu's arrest and prosecution over the allegation of supplying false information on oath in INEC Form 001 over his educational qualifications. The CSO had contended that the IGP's failure to comply was a breach of Sections 31 and 32 of the Police Act 2015. Justice Ekwe held that the ex parte application was meritorious and subsequently granted it. The judge fixed November 1 for hearing of the substantive suit. And moving on to the African scene, suspected Islamist militants on Friday attacked the main military base where Mali's interim president lives outside the capital Bamako. But the armed forces said they had repelled the assault and had the situation under control. Militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State have repeatedly attacked army bases across Mali during a decade-long insurgency concentrated in the north and center, but never so close to Bamako in the south. Heavy gunfire rang out for about an hour early on Friday at the Kati camp, about 15 kilometers from Bamako. A convoy carrying the leader of Mali's junta, Colonel Assimi Goita, later sped away from his house in Kati in the direction of Bamako. The military and government typically refer to Islamist insurgents in the country as terrorists. And South Africa has lifted most COVID-19 restrictions and eased the implementation of health measures. This was attributed to South Africa's accessible, effective treatment approaches and the availability of COVID-19 vaccines. Government agency National Institute for Communicable Diseases believes that easing health measures will not lead to the increase of COVID-19 infections in South Africa, as hospitalizations and reported deaths have declined. Professor Cheryl Cohen, National Institute for Communicable Diseases, head of Center for Respiratory Diseases and Meningitis, is confident that the relaxation of health measures will not lead to a new COVID-19 variant. South Africa had recorded the most coronavirus cases and deaths on the African continent, with over 3.9 million confirmed infections and more than 100,000 deaths. 3 months ago, South Africa and Nigeria eased their COVID-19 rules on travelers requiring a PCR test. And now to the foreign scene. Sri Lankan security forces raided and partially cleared a protest camp occupying government grounds in Colombo early on Friday, fueling fears that President Ranil Wickremesinghe had launched a crackdown a day after being sworn in. Media footage showed soldiers in riot gear and armed with assault rifles tearing down the camp, set up in April by protesters enraged by the country's economic collapse and acute shortages of fuel, food and medicine. The president, a six-time prime minister, was sworn in as president on Thursday after winning a parliamentary vote to succeed Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who fled to Singapore last week in the wake of massive public protest triggered by the country's worst economic crisis in 7 decades. Chinese President Xi Jinping offered Sri Lanka's new president his support on Friday, state broadcaster CCTV reported, as the Indian Ocean island grapples with its worst economic crisis in decades. Ranil, a lawyer who served as Sri Lanka's prime minister a record 6 times, was sworn in on Thursday in the face of fierce public opposition.